Hey everyone, this is Black Diamond from the Crew Network, and you're tuned in to Basic Black After Dark, the podcast that meets you right where you are and delivers the conversations you crave. Tonight, I'm excited to welcome our special guest, Bobby Stretchin, an inspiring author and the driving force behind Just For Me Wellness. It's a nonprofit dedicated to empowering individuals through self investment and personal development. Bobby, thank you for joining us. We're eager to hear more about your work, your journey, and the impact of Just For Me Wellness. Wow, it's really nice to have you here. Your book, I don't even know where to begin. It talks about legacy. It talks about family. I want to discuss legacy and family with you. What inspired you to write this book? I know it was in honor of your mother, Bessie Howard Hadley.
hmm
But what inspired you to write this book about her?
Well, actually, during the time that this came up, my mother was living. She's deceased
Oh,
now,
okay.
but she was living, and when we would visit and talk, she would be sharing so much about her faith and her life experiences, and she said she would just love to be able to do ministry. She wanted to travel and really evangelize and talk about the Lord and pray with people, which she did. But as she got older, she couldn't do it. She wasn't a person that knew how to drive, and she didn't have a high school education. So when we would be talking about these things, and I said, Mom, I'm gonna write a book about you, and it's gonna be called The
Mm,
Book of Bessie, and your voice is going to get out there. She says, well, I'm going to tell it to you because I know you will get it out there. So we started just talking, and I would take notes. I would write down key things that she would tell me about. And some morning she would call me. And early in the morning, she said, I got some fresh bread. I got a word from the Lord. I got a
mm,
revelation, and I want to tell it to you, and I would write it down. So as the book was being formulated and birthed, it came from those conversations. Now when she passed, we
mm.
the book hadn't been even really edited. Nothing had been done other than the foundation of it. So when she passed, I couldn't really for the grieving of it, I just didn't do anything. It was a little heavy to deal with. But thank God I had a supportive group of people in my family and in my spiritual family that encouraged me and helped me. And so with that strength, I was able to go ahead on and be able to actually finish the first of her book about walking on the
Oh,
streets of gold. And so here we are today, and the book is published and it's nominated for a Distinguished Author Guild Award, which was something
yes, it
I didn't
has been.
expect. And then it won.
Congratulations.
And
Congratulations.
thank you so much. It was so the inspiration was people supporting me, saying, you can do this. I'll help you. You can do this.
Is
We
this your
got you.
first book?
This
Is
is
this
my
your first book?
this is my first book ever.
Your first book, and you came out of the gate winning an award. So, how important is a family legacy, and how will you preserve the values and wisdom of your loved ones?
But well, family legacy is everything based on the scriptural text that tells us that God blesses from generation to generation. There is a legacy through faith. It's very
Mm,
important, just as much as knowing Black history is important for the next generation and the next generation. So is faith. Family faith is a legacy. of what God has done
I
in the past that He will do again. Hmm.
I see that, or I feel as though your mother is so proud of you. Finishing the book, it's about her.
It's about
You
her.
got bragging rights, Miss Hatley. You have bragging rights where you're at. You have bragging rights,
Oh, yes.
and and to know that there was an award behind it. What qualities or values did your mother embody that made her such a remarkable person in your eyes?
My mama always had an openness about helping other people. One of the things I saw mama do was take a little food, a little cloth, turn it into garments, take a little food, make soup, feed a whole family, no matter who came by the house. And no matter what we had to eat, she knew what to add to that pot to make sure everybody got a bowl full.
So your mother's house was that house.
I've seen her endure some things that I know were painful for her, but she did it with such a grace that she was able to smile and then cry in the background. Come right on back out,
Oh
smile
wow.
some.
So how do you think honoring her legacy through this book will impact future generations of your family or even your readers?
I think the way that this book will impact my personal family is because we still have a generation who can say that they were witnesses of the
Mm.
wisdom and the legacy of faith that she walked. So we still have that generation, but for the generation to come, we this story will make an impact because the word of God also teaches us that when we tell the amazing grace and power of God, it causes the next generation to have hope in that God. So that's the legacy, that this same power of faith and resiliency will reverberate, it'll be told. And that's the impact in my personal family. But for the readers, my mama's going to be echoing the voices of so many readers. When you get this book, there is a chapter that will speak to you, and you'll say, you know what? That's my story. That's me.
Mm.
That was the story I wish I could have told. And now that I see that it's in print, it's out here, they're going to be empowered to say, you know what? I found my voice, and I'm an overcomer too.
So how can families preserve the wisdom of their elders? Even as society becomes more fast paced. For instance, with traditions, storytelling, documentation as tools for legacy building, how can those families preserve the wisdom of their elders?
I would
Because
encourage.
sometimes they don't want to hear, and the younger people don't want to hear it because they figure, oh, that's so old fashioned. But how do you think families should be able to or could preserve the wisdom of their elders?
I really think having this experience through the Distinguished Authors Guild, I have learned that
Mm.
documenting, writing, it doesn't have to per se that the people take on where I'm going to write a book, but do write it down, put it in writing, keep the pictures. Yes, tell it. Now it may seem as though there's a generation that doesn't want to hear it. It may seem that way, but I am a witness that there's a generation right now that is hungry to know the identity of where I came from so that I can get a perspective on where I am. You know, this
Mm.
generation, this
Yeah.
generation is facing challenges. Not all of them are new, but they are magnified. Drugs aren't new, gangs aren't new. The struggles of race, that's not new. Politics isn't new. It's magnified. So there are young people, although it seems like they don't want to hear, they do. There's a lot that's happened from generation to generation that's clouded that communication. It's kind of perverted that communication. But I can tell you as a
Yeah.
witness, we have an amazing generation of young people who are hungry for that knowledge of where did this come from. I do want to know in my family. They want to know. And it's just
Yeah,
about
but
that faith. Hmm.
I want to go to our sidebar. Shanette Johnson is saying, "Good evening, ladies,"
Hmm.
and from the crew, she's saying, and that's the producer saying that it is powerful, very, very powerful. Founding sponsors is saying amen, and it is powerful. And also, Patrice, hey Patrice, she's saying hello, and Shanette is
Hi.
saying exactly to what you're saying about our youth. How they are thirsty for the information.
That's right.
Um, but sometimes, it's just so hard to reach them, and I think that's because they're misunderstood. I want to dive into how faith and prayer play a role in overcoming life's trials. What was the role of in faith and prayer in overcoming life's obstacles, as highlighted in Bessie's life?
My mama had told me that, she went through some racism, not just between different races, but racism within our race, light skinned, dark skinned thing. And there were other
Mm,
things with poverty. There was things with the secrets, the things that family push into the closet and try to shut the door on, that you couldn't do it because everybody knew it, just weren't able to talk about it. But my mama told me about how it was that it was God Himself that caused her to have ears to hear His voice. Because, she wasn't just really raised up in the church, but there came a point when she heard God letting her know that I'm your God. I'm not shut up in a church. I'm your God, and I will help you. You're going to have to listen to me, though. And He gave her ears to hear. So faith, whereas it may look like faith is locked in a location, God is
mhm.
not locked up in certain denominations. He will reach you right where you are. So my mama experienced that personal relationship where God would tell her while she's laying in her bed to come and meet with me. And she said that He would tell her 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, will you listen to me? Will you come so I can talk to you? And she did. She said at 2 o'clock in the morning, she finds herself getting out of the bed and laying on the floor next to the bed with her face down. She said, face down in the rug. And I'm saying, God, hear me. I don't know what to do. I can't fix this. I'm losing my mind. And right there on the side of her bed, 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, she is in a place meeting with the Lord, able to hear Him talk to her about her. And then healing started.
Do
Mm.
you think that that was one of her specific challenges that your mother faced, and with her faith, that provided her strength during those times?
Absolutely. Absolutely. She talked a lot about how when you're struggling with certain things in life, well, everything, there are times you cannot express what you're dealing with. Sometimes even when you go to talk to somebody, they may not get where you're coming from. And that little breakdown right there will cause you to will just keep it to yourself. And so being able to talk to the Lord and the Lord talk to you, that caused her to come up from being a victim, and she started surviving.
Your sister Sabrina, she says that she's a witness to your words, and that your mom word still lives. And that brings me to ask you, how did witnessing your mother's resilience shape your outlook on life and challenges? And Sabrina, you're her sister, so you must have witnessed some of that too. So you could send something through and just let us know from you too, because you're sisters, but sometimes you see things a little differently. How did witnessing your mother's resilience shape your outlook on life and challenges?
When I saw my mama going through abuse, I could not, and that's as a child, I could not wrap my mind around. I couldn't get that. I'm looking at her being abused, and then, things that I suffered. It's like she really couldn't do a lot about it. And so, no, I mean, I couldn't really process all of that. But as I grew older, and she and I were able to talk. We even made it to a place where we could pray together. I saw her overcome things that she used to couldn't do. I saw her find her voice. It didn't necessarily make it
Mm.
easier in the beginning, but I saw her, and I could witness that. Hey, listen, uh, you may have a place where you're broken. I watched my mama go from being broken to being healed. I saw her without an identity, and then I saw her with God find it. So for me, I can look at my mom and say, yeah, there was a maybe a place where I am that, I don't really see me. I don't get me. I don't know me. But I saw her,
So
and her words
do you
impacted
think
me.
do you think that this could lead to a broader conversation on how listeners can draw on their beliefs or practices during tough times?
It can, because it's real. Religion is skewed by the definition,
Mm.
but faith in God is an absolute truth. Faith in God works. The word of God works.
I see and feel empowerment and self investment with you. What does that mean since you're the president of Just For Me Wellness Incorporated? I believe it is incorporated. How would you define self investment and why is it essential in personal growth and empowerment?
Self investments are important because they're investments you make into yourself, not into somebody else. So you're not having to
Mm.
decipher how to fix somebody. Self investments mean you look at you as the priority. You look at yourself. And sometimes that's hard to do for life because we're so busy focusing outward. So self investments cause you to look inside and, first of all, do an assessment of how you're doing. You'd be surprised how you're doing. It's empowering just to take a moment and say, how does my body feel? I worked all day. You can't even tell that your feet are swollen. You can't even tell that you've even got a stomach ache. You've got
Mm.
a headache, because we're so driven to push past things. So where we think that we're empowering others, we're kind of like leeching from ourselves. You're losing a lot of you being the you that you see that needs to be in your environment, in your social circle. You lost you a
I
lot
like
of time.
that. I like that what you said when you said leeching off of yourself.
Mhm.
I would have never thought about it that way. But what are some simple practical ways people can begin to invest in themselves daily, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually?
The way that they can do that daily, listen, first of all, to do it on a daily routine, you ever get up in the morning and when you get started going, your first thought is the things you got to do for other people, your job, your responsibilities. A self investment you can do every day before you get to going is check on yourself. Did you sleep
Mm.
okay?
Self care,
Mm-hmm. Are you planning on drinking
self
some
care.
water when you get up? No, I gotta hurry. Are you gonna take time to say, yeah, for me today, I'm gonna start it off with a praise. I gotta get some thank you in. I gotta get my thoughts together. Sometimes you wake up and you don't even have your right mind. Your mind is your
Mm.
mind is bringing thoughts to you. You're not even in control of. That's daily. You could do that. Mentally, again, do an assessment. You get up, you wake up in the morning times and you got to check on that attitude. You don't even know where it's coming from. Sometimes it's left over from the day before. Had a rotten day at work yesterday. You get up this morning and sometimes you're already predetermining what you think gonna go wrong. Stop a minute and
Yeah.
check on you. I'm good. I'm good this morning. Yeah, I like me. I'm good. And I'm gonna see about me today. Give yourself some affirmation mentally. The next one was
So do
emotion.
you think,
Go ahead. Mhm.
yeah, emotionally. Yep.
Yeah, emotionally, I think again, it all comes to assessment. Taking time to ask yourself how you doing. Do you know sometimes you pack a lot of things in that you got animosity about, and you finding out that I don't feel good, and some of that is really just your emotions. You need to get a few minutes and say, you know what, I don't like this right here, or I do like that. Give yourself time to assess what's going on. You could hate your job. You could say, I hate my job, and don't even know why. You really think it's that, but it's something else. You really just hate getting up, putting on clothes, and getting dressed up. It ain't even that serious. It ain't that serious.
It's a task for some getting out of that bed. It's a task, especially when it's a nice warm bed and you just did that final turnover before you
Talk
actually got to get up.
talk about it, girl. You
Hey, I
telling
don't want
that
to.
one,
I don't
see,
think I'm
and
telling
now
on myself
you already
because
moody.
you hear
You
some
already
people.
moody.
I hear some people say, "Oh, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning for whatever they're getting up for." I'm saying to myself, "I'm just turning over for the fourth time at 5 o'clock in the morning." So if I had to get up at that time and that wasn't my normal thing, yeah, I'm gonna be moody because that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't my planned time, and it just threw off my day. Like, dang, why am I up?
Yeah.
Especially okay. I'll say for me, like I have small children in my house, and one of them get up to go to the bathroom at 5 o'clock in the morning. I know I'm heated because I'm not going back to sleep
Uh,
because I'm feeling like they're up, and I don't like to sleep while the children are walking around because it's 5 o'clock. You're starting to see that crack of sunlight. They're up, so I'm asking, what are you up for? I had to use the bathroom. I wanted some water. Okay, I get it that you had to use the bathroom, but that water it can have waited because then you got to use the bathroom again. So I'm just turning over, and they're just getting up. So I do get that. When my mother used to tell my brothers to get up, they would say, "I'm up, ma." She'd say, "I want to hear them feet hit the floor." They would turn around, and I knew they was doing it, but I didn't say nothing. Turn around, and you hear them go, Their feet would hit the floor, but their body was still in the bed, just laying there. I'm like, okay, they're gonna get
okay.
it now.
Okay.
But I do get it. I do understand the emotional. But what about spiritually?
Check it on yourself spiritually. Listen, just the times that we live in, this social media platform, there is so many things that come in to infiltrate what is even truth spiritually. Even when it comes to God, there are times that God is so misunderstood. He's given accountability for things he didn't even do. So spiritually, sometimes it's hard to seek God for help when you don't trust God. God, why you let this happen? What went on with that? I don't understand. So spiritually, you have to check on yourself, and the only way to do that is in the Word of God and prayer. Now, you can't pray to a God that you think is failing you. Even when you go to church, if you are a person that goes to church, sometimes you're looking more at the person preaching than the person they're preaching about. God told me this one time. He says, if there are 100 preachers now, all 100 preachers, 99 of them are a hypocrite. 99 of the 100 are a hypocrite. And you're saying, I
Wow.
can't believe nobody. You know what? I seen big pastors do this, little pastors do that. And God said, I don't care if it's 99 out of 100 preachers that are a hypocrite. What does that have to do with the faithfulness and the finished works of Jesus Christ? See, so spiritually, there's a whole lot of misconception. There's a whole lot of untruth about God. He said, I so loved you, I sent my son to die for you. So while you're looking at all the 99 hypocrites, what does that have to do with my love for you? It's personal. So you got
Shanetta saying laugh out
to.
loud. So I guess she agrees with you and say, yeah, there's some hypocrites in the church, and I'm going to leave that alone because I just started going back, and I don't want them to think I'm sitting talking about them. But Shanetta again is agreeing with you and saying exactly. Now you spoke about investing in themselves daily, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Mhm.
How can they improve? How can they improve their mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being?
Listen,
Because investing is one thing, but improving something totally different.
it is. It takes this part of when I know old people used to say this: when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, change goes to happening, I'm going to be a witness that you can improve it by being willing. That some, that saying about how, if you keep doing the same thing looking for a different result, you
Mhm.
just, I ain't gonna say that, that you're crazy or nothing, but it's not gonna change. So to make that improvement, even the concept of repentance just means change your mind. Be willing to say that, you know what, there's a way that seems right to me, but I can tell it ain't working. That there's things that I've been putting my hope in and I can see now it's not working. Let me let go. Let me
Some people
surrender. Hmm.
Some people it's hard, and I'll testify on that one because I've been holding on to something for over 40 years and
Wow.
kept it. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna sit there and act like it didn't happen. And I just held on to it. And it was anger. I held on to it for such a long time. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it feels so good to have let it go. That was my friend. It kept me company. It did what I wanted it to do. It was there when I needed it. It was my everything. You couldn't tell me nothing about. I would fight for my best friend. Anger. But that day it had to go. I don't know what it was about, but it had to go. Now it could be peeping in windows, but my windows are shut and locked. So I definitely get what you're saying. Let me ask you, what is the profound impact of Just For Me Wellness since we're talking about, transformation and everything? How do your wellness initiatives catalyze transforming individual lives and strengthening community? Because
I,
you have this wellness program, Just For Me Wellness. I want to know more about that as well.
just for me, wellness. In the title of it, in the name of it, just for me. It focuses on the individual who comes in and participate with our seminars, our wellness workshops. We do them in person and virtually. We do them in groups, we do them individually, and it begins all with this one foundation step: learning to do basic self assessment, which we've already discussed when you were asking me about how do
Hmm.
you do
Yes.
that mentally, spiritually. So it's multi. It seems like it's multifaceted, but at the same time, it's singular because it's all about checking on yourself. Just for me, this isn't a wellness initiative for you to try to lose weight per se, or get in shape, and that's the driving force. No, this is about your overall wellness, so that it can take those areas that are maybe more prioritized, that you're struggling with. There are people who may do want to lose weight, but the thing is, have you assessed yourself to see what's going on with the weight gain? What does this even come from? Is it just
A
a
lot of
matter?
people
Go ahead. Go ahead.
a lot of people confuse that when they hear wellness, they automatically gravitate to weight loss.
That's
I don't
right.
know whether it's the two devils or what, but if wellness could be just the well-being of you, the mind, the body, the soul, but people are associating it with the wellness. For your Just For Me Wellness, can you tell us more about some of the programs that's offered by Just For Me Wellness? And then let me know about the differences that they're making in your community.
Really, it has three basic principles. The programs that we have, again, it deals with basic self assessments, and from there we move on to what we find and discover for either the group or the individual or the participant that really comes in and take advantage of the guided way to do those assessments. Then we'll focus on the target areas. There are people who come in and they do need help with dietary, nutrition. Some of them come in and they're dealing with mental health issues. There are others that come in and they have chronic illnesses. So Just For Me Wellness also networks with resources. So we're not all about, as a disclaimer, we don't bring you into programs and offer these things so that you can say, okay, what do I need to do? And we prescribe something, or we say, take this
Right.
medication, see this physician, but rather we do the assessment and help you prepare to see a licensed physician. There are people that we have dealt with in seminars and workshops and even individually who don't take advantage of going to the doctor. They go, but they go in fear. They don't want to be honest. They don't really want to share symptoms. They're afraid of their medications. They get them, don't take them. They take them like they want to. So we come alongside with education to let them know
Okay.
how to prepare for that. We also network with professionals. We just did a workshop this past 2 months ago on mental health awareness, where we brought in RNs, we brought in clinical therapists, we brought in research so that they could know the resources that are available in that local city we was in, as well as national hotlines. We brought in links that they could go and visit. We gave them worksheets so that they can take them home and do them, so that when you do go to the doctor, that you go prepared, even if it
Yeah.
means, listen, and also sometimes it means bringing somebody with you to help you to even know what happened when you went to the doctor, because sometimes it's so intimidating. People will sit there and after the appointment go home and what did the doctor say? Well, I
You
don't
don't
remember.
know a thing.
I don't know.
Right. So
Family. Mhm.
just for me, wellness is actually the real deal. It's not just somebody have a brick and mortar and they just put some words up there on the outside of a building. You are the real deal. What are some of the most memorable success stories or moments that have come out of your work with the nonprofit?
Oh my goodness, I remember talking with a kind of an elderly lady in her 70s, and she was petrified of doctors because she believed in God so much that she just did not want to. So she was talking to me about her issues, her health issues, and I said, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit together and we're going to go through this stuff. We're going to talk about your symptoms, your medications and all of this." Well, the fear left her when we could talk, and she didn't feel intimidated. It was a good safe place, and we talked about it, and we got a plan together. And then I told her, now you need to talk to your family, because you don't want them to be in the dark about what's going on with you, and then something critical happens, and she actually did have a terminal illness, but she was able to talk to her family. They were able to come together, be a support system in that area. And then, as she went on, and by the way, she's still alive today, but that's because she took the lesson, and she was able to self advocate for her wellness. Now she didn't go in and wait for somebody to shout to her. She was able to ask questions, be knowledgeable. She was able to take ownership of her wellness. And then the family
When
support. Mhm.
once they take ownership of just about anything, but especially of their wellness, it's like turning on a light that's been out in the refrigerator for such a long time. How do you measure the success of these wellness initiatives? Can you share some? I know you shared that story right there, but what about some examples where your programs have sparked real, lasting change in the lives of those you serve?
Those that I've partnered with in the past, where we collaborated on health
Mhm.
initiatives, wellness initiatives, where we've done some self defense classes, even to help people to learn how to be more aware of their surroundings and be on the defense, and not feel like, well, if I don't have a gun or if I don't have a crowd, then I'm totally vulnerable. No, we educated their awareness up to where, listen, you may need to get a weapon, so let's talk about the ways to do that safely. We met with the sheriff department. They were offering gun safety awareness classes. So all
Oh,
of
wow.
that is what Just Me Wellness is able to collaborate. So we're not a standalone organization. We partner to bring
That's
in
great.
what's needed for the people who are willing now to come in and say, listen, I need to make a self investment. I need to learn to do this. I don't know how to do it. I'm afraid to do it. So we look at success when we have repetitive invitations to come alongside other organizations and bring in what we have and share. And when we do the workshops and we send out the emails and we get emails back requesting follow-up materials that we presented in our seminars and workshops. So all of that goes into determining, what's working as well as what's not working. And we may need to look and extend our level of comprehension to make sure that we're still relevant, to the community and families that we serve in.
So I love that you say investment. That's like a deposit that they're putting in. How can someone stay consistent with these practices, especially when life gets busy or they face setbacks?
Well, that's the point of staying connected. Listen, we're not an island. We're never going to be successful as an
Mhm.
island. So once you find out, where help is, it's especially if the relationship is built. So it just for me wellness. I strive to build those relationships. So it isn't just you come to this workshop, this seminar, you and I meet, we talk, and then that's the end of it. No, it builds on relationship, whether it's with me or some of the partners that I deal with. We try to build that relationship because support is important. Community is strengthening more so than a person saying, well, let me come in and get a quick fix. No, we want you to
Yeah.
know that we are a part of a community at Just For Me Wellness.
So, are there any tips for overcoming challenges and maintaining their mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being?
Yes, there is. I tell you what, I guess I want to be careful in how I say this because, again, there's so much misinformation. There's so much, I almost want to say, when I was speaking about how God is even, it's not accurate information because sometimes God is put on the level as man. When it comes to preachers or churches, it's like the people that we see with our eyes are God. So if they do good, then God is good. If they do bad, then God is bad. But I want to tell you,
Wow.
for your emotional and spiritual, for your um, just for you to find yourself, it is necessary to connect with God in your own prayer time. But even at Just For Me Wellness, we do offer connections for people who need to be strengthened in that area, people who are grieving and they're having a hard time coming out of it. We have connections for that. We do. But again, it's based on a person's willingness. So anybody that's listening to me right now and you're dealing with some emotional issues, you're dealing with spiritual issues, you're dealing with, like you said yourself, there's people who are hanging on to anger because they don't know how to let go so that they can experience peace. Don't know
Oh yeah,
how.
it's.
But listen,
I'm going to tell you myself. It may have been something that I hung on to for such a long time, but anger hurts. It may not hurt like you pinching somebody or punching them or slapping them or stepping on their foot. Anger hurts. And I can't tell you what that feeling is like because you have to figure out if that's the hurt from anger or the hurt from somebody else that's within you. And once you let it go, I'm telling you, it is such a freedom.
it
You
is.
feel so free, like you're just, it's just so much that you're free from. Your sleeping patterns are different. Your eating patterns are different.
Oh,
The way you speak to people are different. It's just such a difference because it's gone. And it's something that I'll speak for me, weighing you down. And when it weighs you down, it's hard to get up. It is really hard to get up. So
Yes.
let me ask you before I go into all of that, because this is not even about me. What is the process and emotional journey behind writing a deeply personal book like Walking on Streets of Gold?
Oh my goodness. My mom was living. So it was started out easy because she's right there. She's talking, I'm writing, I'm sharing, and I'm comprehending, I'm growing, I'm being strengthened. But when she passed, she wasn't there anymore. And I'm there with her words, I'm there with her voice, and I'm there as a witness of her experiences. So again, grief was overwhelming. I mean, I lost my mom, and I don't have a place to pick up that manuscript of those notes, but because she left a legacy of wisdom about God, she left a wisdom about faith. I was able to use what she said and be able to go through the process of grieving. And it wasn't instant overnight. Listen to me. The process was easier because when I missed her and yearned for her, I'm listening and I'm remembering her saying, listen, 'cause she died of a terminal illness. She says, I'm tired and God is going to give me some rest. And she says, what's going to happen is I'm going to be with Jesus walking on streets of gold. That's what he promised. She says, I'm going to walk on streets of gold. And so when I began to miss her and think on her, those words came right on there too. She's not out in the cemetery. Now her body is the remains of her flesh, but her spirit is walking on streets of gold. This is what Jesus promised. This is what makes God able to heal anger, jealousy, bitterness. God is able to heal that through what he did by giving Jesus. And so when my mama's words that, listen, baby, I'm going to be walking on streets of gold. I'm going to be an overcomer. Whatever I suffered through, God, through his son Jesus, gave me freedom. I'm not a victim. And then she went on to say this, listen, she says, I'm not even surviving. I'm not surviving an abusive marriage. I'm not surviving racism. I'm not surviving when I couldn't forgive people. I didn't survive it. I overcame it by the blood of the Lamb. He told me, the same way I forgive you, you're free. Forgive them, and you're going to be free indeed. And so,
So I don't want to say challenges. I rather say different stages. What are some of the stages that you faced in writing this book, especially since it was such a personal story?
wondering what
Because
my
I know one of the stages was your mom. I don't like to say death. I'll say separating from you. So I know that was one of the stages, and I know that I can just imagine it being one of the hardest. What are some of the other stages? And I'll say it that way because, again, I don't like to say challenges that you faced in writing this book, especially since it was such a personal story.
well, I went through the stage of once I had people supporting me and encouraging me to finish it. I began to wonder when we were writing it, I wanted it to stay in her voice because that was her desire.
Mm.
She wanted to tell it. So because she didn't have perfect grammar or perfect speech, there was first the challenge of trying to write it differently than she said it. And so right there, I said, yeah, maybe I do need to change it because I don't want people to say, well, I don't get what she's saying. It's her vernacular, but people not getting it. So I said, well, if I don't write it in a way where people get it, then that's not helpful. But I went through the stage of, listen, we're gonna write it and honor her. This is her story, so we're gonna keep her vernacular. So that was one stage. And so I stood firm, and there were people that supported me. Write it just the way she said it. So I was good there. And then I went through the stage of, but what is my family going to say? Because as you spoke about my sister who's on the line now, her perspective of what mom went through is different than mine because the relationships are personalized. Way
Yeah.
her and mama wasn't the way me and mom was. And so I'm wondering who's going to be offended, who's going to say that's not true or she shouldn't have said that. And so I didn't quit, but I did have a stage right there where I paused and said, wait, I'm wondering how people are going to hear it. But then what brought me through that stage was either stay true that this is her voice and she's telling how her faith caused her to overcome, or this isn't the book to write. And so I made it through that stage by saying, yes, this is walking on streets of gold. Bessie, the voice of an overcomer.
Um,
So I
I
made it through that.
love that you continue to refer to the things that may be in the book as the voice of your mom because between the two of us you know your mom's voice, and I guess, and it sounds like every time you speak of this book, although I'm hearing you, she's whispering too, and that's what it seems that just keeps echoing out, that she's whispering to you, and it just seems that it's not eerie, it's it's peaceful. Just by hearing what you're saying, and knowing the title of the book, and visualizing the cover, I feel as though she's whispering to you, and she's proud that you did use her voice and you didn't forget all the lessons learned. So what ways, well, rather, instead of some what words, you were encouraged by so many others to finish this book, and you were adamant about using her voice.
Hmm.
What encouragement or advice would you offer to those who are hesitant to share their stories? Because it seems like it's a powerful story, and it's not just your story, it's your legacy.
I would encourage people and tell them, listen, just write it down. That's the first thing I would tell you. It may be so intimate right now that you don't see yourself sharing it, and that's okay right now. But I encourage you, write it down, capture it. It'll actually minister to you as you write it down. Those words will speak to you as well, and so capture that, put it together. When it's a little difficult and you got to back away, I want to encourage you. That's good too. Back away.
See,
You
that's
right.
that's what you hear from a DAG winner. You say first time coming out the gate, that's a DAG winner. In what ways can storytelling serve as a powerful tool for processing emotions? Because this book seemed like it was very emotional, or could have been very emotional. And for people who are hearing your story, it could be very emotional. How does that resonate with you, and how does that foster connections and promote healing?
There's a saying about the best way to overcome fear is to face it. And
Mm,
so in writing this, I every time I had to deal with it, I had to face it. My mama was gone. I had to face it, to work on it. I had to face it through the stages. And so in facing it, although not easy, it's processing. Grief doesn't just poof go away. I mean, you go through the stages of denying it a while, then you're angry about it happening, then you're maybe so depressed about it. Then the next thing, you don't know how to process bad memories that might have taken
yeah.
place with the person you love. But all that is the process, okay? All that is the process, and it's okay. God takes us through it. So going through this
Mhm.
book, you will find that if there's somebody who's lost a for people who lost a loved one, I would encourage you to get the book because my mama's voice talks about how even through terminal illness, God was there with her And that soothes the heart, that the person you loved, God loved them too. He was with them. And yes, separation, as you put it, is a part of life. It's a part of life. It's not a strange phenomenon. So God is there with us to let us know that all of us didn't come to stay in this world. We're gonna pass away one day, but knowing the comfort that he gives a person. So when my mama was in transition and she's talking about, I don't want to take a lot of time, but I'm going to share this one to help somebody. When you buy this book, you're going to hear my mom's voice talking about how God told her, listen, if you were drowning in the sea, I would become living water around you, and you wouldn't drown because I'm living water even in the sea that you seem to be drowning in. So your loved one, although they're going through that, God promises that I'm right there. And he takes them through this passage with a level of comfort, and that will comfort you. That will comfort you. When my mom talks about, God is saying that I'm faithful to you even until your last day, and I'll come, and then you'll be with me. So listen, in this book, there are different stages. Each chapter, you will hear her voice echo the struggles, the even the victories. You will hear an echo of your own voice. This book ministers with you in faith. Okay?
So all that you had just mentioned, that's a part of what's in this book.
That's a part of what's in the book. Now it's an easy
Um,
read. It's an easy read, but the
you
wisdom.
know, I beg to differ on that when you say that it's a easy read because you wrote it, you've heard your mother's voice, but sitting here listening to you speak, although your mom was not my mom, just waiting to hear those words as I read it, that's what would make it not an easy read because it's like an elder, forgive me for saying it that way, I would say a legend, in other words, speaking to me and me paying attention. And I think that's what I would get, and I'm only going to speak for me. I would get from reading that book that I'm listening to an elder talking to me about a journey that she was on and that I may someday be on. So I'm definitely interested in this book. As we wrap up, what's your vision for the future for Just For Me Wellness? And how can others get involved or support the incredible work you're doing to continue making a difference?
Listen, my vision for Just For Me Wellness is that we grow and stay relevant to the community that we serve, and by that I mean that the elderly, that community, dealing with the ones who have become caregivers, of a young generation, and then dealing with the
Mm,
young people who are facing a whole new health crisis. Some of them, they're young adults, but they don't have health care, or again, because of technology and the changes in the medical profession, even,
mm,
it's just so much. So we want to stay relevant. I want to continue to be a lifelong learner, and we want to partner to make sure that people as individuals continue to be educated, to become self advocates, not only in their health, but in their emotional wellness, in their social wellness, even in their families. Like, I tell you what, I have really enjoyed, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna try to curb this because I can hear the passion that's saying to me, tell these people, listen, you matter, but you also are an overcomer. So you can get in touch with me on Facebook. Just type in Just For Me Wellness. You can get in touch with me on Instagram. Again, Just For Me Wellness, on the social platform. My email is justformewellness@gmail.com. You can email me. I,
mm.
I will also, I don't have it in the chat, but anyway, I want to make sure that if you type in just for me wellness, or if you type in Bobby Strutchin, you can inbox me and we can be connected.
So if you're not writing it down, listen to the replay, go right
Yes.
back in it. I think this whole segment was worth listening to the replay anyway, whether you picked up that or not. She's given out so many nuggets tonight. She's brought her mother along with her on the journey.
Oh,
Thank you, Bobby, for joining us tonight with this inspiring conversation. Your work with Walking on Streets of Gold, and I see why you won that award. And the Just for Me Wellness Incorporated reminds me of the power of faith, legacy, and self investment. If you're feeling moved to honor your own story or make positive changes in your life, remember it's never too late to start. Be sure to check out Bobby's book to dive deeper into the wisdom she shared today and consider how you can invest in yourself and your community. Join us for a special bonus show on Saturday, November 30th, featuring best-selling author Denise Jacquenet, who's also known as Jack in the Box, with her insight from her powerful book, Beyond the Scars. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity to hear from the author herself. Until next time, keep striving, believing, and most importantly, growing. After 8, after dark. Thanks for listening.